Hey, peace world. Some bite down boxing here on the Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment channel. Got to jump into it really quick. Little afternoon wood break, midday break. Really quickly, some of this stuff that's going on out in California, the different violence that I'm seeing. Didn't Tupac kind of predict this? Saw a report this morning of Clarence Avant just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but his wife Jackie Avant was gunned down at in front of their home last night. And it could be more, it could be something else there. It could be separate or unrelated to the smash and grab stuff that's going on out there. There's also, I guess, some cases where wealthy people, richer people going to these different returning home in these more affluent neighborhoods that they're being robbed or different crimes being committed to them against them. So it's some wild stuff going on. Like I said, I just wonder, if Tupac didn't predict some of this stuff, like that he said something about the either the streets or the poor would just like rise up and start eating the rich. It might have been a little more nuanced than that or something, but it was something along those lines. Anyway, man, let's take a look at this weekend's lightweight championship fight between WBC champion undefeated WBC champion, 23 years old, from California, Northern California, I believe, but now trains, resides, and fights out of Las Vegas. Devin Haney taking on Joseph Diaz or Jojo Diaz Jr., who's 32 1-1. 26-0 for Haney, 15 knockouts or something. I think this is a really good fight, to be honest with you. And honestly, man, right now it's a lot of action left out here on the boxing calendar. Lomachenko's out there against Comey, should be an interesting fight. Chisora and Parker too is out there. I think we have the young Ben is taking on Algieri. If you like boxing and not just 4 or 5 names, there's some interesting cards coming up. But looking at this, I didn't watch most of the press conferences and the videos that are out there. You can check out Matchroom Boxing's YouTube channel, I guess. I did watch the sit down of Austin Williams, Ammo Williams, middleweight. I thought I did a little video on that. I think he has a very interesting story, and it's an interesting storyline for this weekend's card if you care about the undercard. But I think both of these guys here, Devin and JoJo, I think they both said the right things. Fight week is a bit of the mind games, a battle of the a war of the words, and I think both camps have said some stuff. I don't think either one of them can win. I don't think either one of them can win anything or gain any advantage in what they say this week. But I think they've said the right things to try to plant some seeds in the other fighter's mind to maybe get them off of their game a little bit or to cause a little bit of doubt, just enough. I know I go back to Sugar Ray Leonard said that he kept repeating the same messaging leading up to his fight against Marvin Hagler. And on fight night, Hagler fought the way that he wanted him to, the way that he thought he needed him to get the victory. So it does work. You can put some messaging out there, a little Inception light, and the other dude buy into it. Because these guys are always trying to prove something. Or we saw last week with Teofimo Lopez Jr., like whatever the game plan was, he went in there the way that he went in there on his own with his own motivations and without his, the dead weight of his father not being able to help him navigate through the moment, they dropped the ball. And so, but here, like I said, I think Haney has just said, hey, I'm the more a versatile guy. I can do everything. That's the word. That's the book on me, is that I'm versatile and can do everything. Yes, he's not a home run hitter, so to speak, but very versatile, well-rounded guy. Young, athletic. He's longer. I'm assuming he has more reach and whatnot. Uh, Jabs well. Does everything pretty decent, and he has the title. We did see that Linares was able to land a big shot at the end of the round, and had Haney a little spaced out for a couple of seconds as he started to go make his way to his corner. I think he was a little different, or a lot different, in the subsequent round as well. But he figured it out. And I don't think Diaz is not that kind of puncher himself. I don't know, between him and Linares, is he a bigger puncher? Not as I don't know, really, to be honest with you. But Diaz doesn't. His reputation is that he isn't that he's this super heavy-handed guy. So I did love his body work, though. In a losing effort to Gary Russell Jr., I really did appreciate his commitment to the body work. And if he goes to the body like that in this particular fight, if he's able to do that, that can make it interesting for, what Haney is late in this fight. So, yeah, but Diaz, I think what he spoke to was he praised Devin Haney for all of his skills, and he was spot on with his assessment of what Haney is in the ring. The one thing that he said, though, was that he credited himself for his amateur experience, the international experience, all the different styles that he's faced, fighting through some adversity in the championship fight against Tevin Farmer. The experience of facing a fast guy, a quick hand, quick feet guy like Gary Russell Jr. In his backyard. The Rock and Mauve guy that he fought was a pretty tough customer. Getting past a guy like Fortuna, who's pretty awkward. His body of work is impressive, and he's a younger fighter. So a good challenge here for Haney. I think this is exactly what he needed for the Dream Team brand, or the Dream Promotions brand. I think he needed this type of opponent to really, solidify what him and his father would like him to be, over the next 3 to 5 years. And so, and I think Haney is pretty well grounded going into this thing. That's one thing that I like about this pair. They were vocal about not getting the opportunity that they wanted, and some of these guys not facing them. I love the sweatshirt from Bill. These fighters that say everything except let's fight. I think he had that on the front of his hoodie and whatnot, and I think that was the case. So I don't really have a prediction for this fight, other than I'm pulling for Haney to pull it out. I like JoJo. I didn't like how things played out with him losing his title on the scale and whatnot before he left super featherweight, but it happens. He has gone up, and he was looking forward to facing Ryan Garcia, and then that fell apart, and now he's over here against Haney. And I think, like I said, he's saying all the right stuff this week. He is the more experienced guy. Maybe he's the grittier guy, and I would expect the totality of his game to present some problems for Haney. And we get to see if Haney can problem solve on the fly. And I think the thing that becomes an issue or a major storyline to watch with somebody like Haney is the fact that when you're not heavy-handed, when you're not getting guys out of there, as you're coming up the ranks, when everything is, and when most of your fights are going to the cards, but then as you face the more elite guys, can you keep them off of you with the power that you do have? Or do you know how to use your legs? Can you stay defensively responsible for 36 minutes? As like I said, we saw late in the fight against Linares, in just a moment where he had a lapse in his defense, he was made to pay for it. You face some guys with some heavier hands, that could become a problem down the road. So that's going to be the question in looking at Haney. Like, if you can't get guys out of here, if fighters don't respect your power, how can you use the rest of your game to win and then win convincingly? And then, as soon as you get the decision, the critics are already on to your next challenge. And well, you didn't do this, you don't do this, you haven't shown us this. You should face so and so. And that's what Haney could, ultimately that's who his opponent could be, is the narrative that's set in place by the critics after every fight. You didn't knock Gambo out. You didn't stop Linares. How could you possibly beat Lomachenko if you didn't check these boxes? And so I would like for him to put in a good performance this week, get tested a little bit, but pass the test, get the victory, and move on and see what can be done. I did see a video out there from DeBella, who is the promoter for George Kambosos Jr., and I would expect nothing less from DeBella to pull the reins on this undisputed thing. Like, if you sitting here holding 3 titles, it's incumbent upon the business team to maximize what you can do with those 3 titles. So I don't want this ducking stuff and best fight the best, blah blah blah. Like, when you have the type of breakthrough that Kambosos Jr. just had, you got to capitalize on that. And if he can host this fight in Australia and there be 50,000 and up people there to watch it, then you do that. You make sure that you make that happen. Now, you're probably pretty comfortable if you're DeBella, you probably not all that you're probably pretty comfortable if Haney is the name that it ends up being, because like I said, he's not just flat out knocking dudes out, laying dudes out. So you think, and Kambosos showed himself to be a pretty solid boxer, and he can take a punch. So you don't run away from that fight. But again, you got to act in the best interest of your client and maximize this moment. And then also, as a businessman, DeBella to be the guy out here with, to have the stable or the roster that he has, but not to have a home, a network home, a platform for all of your fighters. Maybe this is a chance to solve that problem that's been plaguing him for the last, 2 or 3 years. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think if DeBella had some backing behind him, I think he would be a positive in getting some better fights. I really do. Not to say that I'm a huge, I'm a diehard DeBella fan, but I think there are a couple of guys out there that act in a manner, as I've seen, who are trying to advance the sport and push the sport of boxing along, being aware of how competitive it is to get eyes on TV screens, to sell tickets, and for the health of boxing. And I think DeBella is cognizant of those challenges. And I can point right to this weekend with this fight with Gervonta Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz. That's Sunday night, I believe. That's on pay-per-view. And what do you do with that fight? I think that fight is an embarrassment for Tank Davis. I'm not gonna say a whole lot on that. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that fight. But I just, I don't think it's. I think Tank Davis is a pretty important figure in advancing and being capable of advancing the profile for boxing, the overall profile for boxing. And when he's stuck on these lower tier fighters for these secondary belts and whatnot, I just think it's a little reckless But some people are, some people support their guy through thick and thin, and somebody's gonna buy some tickets, and somebody's gonna pay for it or pirate it. I'm gonna be watching football Sunday, so that's me. But yeah, also another interesting thing, I do think this card is pretty decent. I did it at the top of the week. I talked about some of the depth on the undercard and some of the interesting storylines. I won't rehash all of that here, but I do see where Filip Hrgovic has a different opponent. He was facing some Scott Alexander or something, who I really wasn't that familiar with. Now he's facing Emir Amatovic, who's 10-0, and this is for the IBF International title. So that's a change right there. I would suggest, take a look at that. Take a look at the Austin Williams sit down. With him getting ready to face Quatavius Cash. But take a look at the Matchroom Boxing interview for him. I thought it was very. I thought what I saw in his the calmness that I could sense in him. I was concerned that they would bring him back against a guy like Cash, who's no pushover, and is in need of making something happen for himself with this fight. I don't think the dude is coming to lay down. And here's a young man, just working through some kind of mental health episode, and you put him in here against a guy who could present some, put him in some kind of duress on a pretty good stage. But listening to Austin Williams talk about working his way back and what he was doing while he was away, well, I'm not giving you any details really about exactly what happened, but I liked what I heard. I like what I saw and what I sensed, and I'm looking forward to his performance, being that he just defeated Dennis Doglin last time out. It's not a lot of American fighters above 147. So to have a guy a middle, I mean, we know we know the guy, young guys. I'll say that we know the group of guys is super welterweight. They're all getting a little longer in the tooth, boxing wise, though. But here with Austin Williams, I don't think he's 25. But yeah, like I said, it's crowded as hell between 126 and 140, and it's some good numbers at 118 and 122 as well. But young, promising welterweights, not a ton of them. Not a lot of young, promising super welterweights. I know Charles Conwell is out there and a couple others. But then you start getting the one to middleweight and 68, and it starts to really drop off of young up and coming fighters to watch. Fundora is a younger guy that's at the 6'6" super welterweight, 6'5", whatever he is. He fights this weekend on the Davis Cruz undercard. But so I want to see what I'm interested to see what happens for Austin. Montana Love is he's at 140. He's on this undercard, and then Jessica McCaskill, the undisputed welterweight champion for the women, against Candy Wyatt. I've heard Candy Wyatt's name several times. She's 10-3. Can she pull off the victory against McCaskill? McCaskill is definitely not unbeatable, and has had some up and down, a couple of up and down performances. So I think if Candy Wyatt is capable of quote unquote taking the air out of the ball, making it ugly, or if she could just box really well, because boxing really isn't McCaskill's specialty. You want to do the opposite against McCaskill. If you can keep some space and shove a jab in her face and control her wildness and her volume a little bit, I think you can get a decision against McCaskill. But I don't know a whole lot about Candy Wyatt. But I've seen the name before. But McCaskill, of all the, I'll say this. Of all the undisputed fighters, there's only a handful of them, but of all the undisputed fighters, McCaskill is definitely not the most skilled, the least flawed of anybody, holding 3 or more titles, or the 4 that it takes for undisputed. So anyway, though, man, like I said, man, I want to see what I'm glad that Devin Haney has this opportunity. I think him and his father were very vocal about not being able to book the big fights and allowing them to grow. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Too early. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, cause I know you ain't everywhere on social media, so I'm like, how did he see it? But I know where you saw him. What's up, DT? Like that block M, baby. But yeah, I think this is an excellent opportunity for Devin Haney. And I like, you can be frustrated about something, but you don't let the frustration get the best of you, and you don't let the frustration affect your focus. And I think the frustration that was out there that a lot of us didn't know about with Teofimo Lopez, I think the instability in his career and the instability in his house with his wife leaving him not seeing his newborn child, the drama and the noise from his father. He probably wanted to be anywhere but in a ring Saturday night with all of that stuff going through his head. And then you get this stingy, this pesky ass dude over here who won't stand and trade with you like you might want him to, so that you can get the hell out of the ring. It was the wrong set of circumstances for Teofimo Lopez last Saturday. And I think that's what I like about Bill Haney, why he may not be, a upper echelon boxing coach. I love the way that Bill Haney communicates to his son. He hasn't gone out here and oversold his son. I'm not a big fan of Haney's when he goes to show his jewelry and his Lamborghini and some of the other stuff. But he's got to sell himself to a degree. And if you can't get the opponents in the ring to sell yourself, you got to do something. But he's never it's never like it was truly true. It was getting under his skin. It seems like there's been enough patience to let things play out. And I just like what he was saying. And here's a 20-some, 23-year-old kid. You don't have a PR group that comes in and tells you how to present yourself. You're not up on a stage with 2 or 3 other teammates. You don't, you're not some junior or Heisman Trophy candidate at a powerhouse program. You're not an NBA player. Like, we don't know how all of these kids nowadays get groomed to go and do media. But I think on most of the times that I've seen Devin Haney sit down for interviews, I think he's been he's been spot on with responding to some of the stuff. Whereas, like I said, in contrast, listening to Teofimo Lopez go out and talk about how many pay-per-views I'm gonna sell, and I'm gonna be on pay-per-view from now on, and I'm gonna be the headliner with Mike Tyson. If they have a Mike Tyson fight on the card, I'm gonna be the main event, and just getting out over his skis. And I thought, if you start listening to people and they sound bad shit or disconnected from reality, or if the shit ain't lining up, or if you're making promises that there's no way that you can keep, and you don't understand what you don't have control of, I'm not the dude to sit here and keep clapping and keep listening to that shit. I'm getting a little concerned with Claressa Shields. When you constantly, I deserve as much money. I need to get paid like Canelo. Like, you starting to let this business shit get away from you in a way. It's just nobody to really challenge her in the division that she's in. But anyway, it's time for me to get back to it. So yeah, like I said, man, I think the war of words. I think each man has said what he should say. A lot of truth in what both men said, and then a little bit of falsehood and embellishment to make things interesting. And we'll see. Like I said, I think Haney can pull out a decision, but I like Diaz to mix it up and make him work for it. I think we get a good fight Saturday night. Let me get on off of here, man. Please do check me out over at www.bitedownboxing.com. As my man Denny just said, I do have a couple articles up there. Was able to really lock in this week and get an editorial piece out there about boxing dads. Maybe you'll dig where I'm coming from. I got a couple text messages about it, about the article. I appreciate that. I appreciate the people that clicked on the website, spent some time there, and actually read my thoughts. You know, we can't all be Mark Kriegel and get Mark Kriegel's bag and whatnot, but I try. But yeah, I'd appreciate if you pulled up over there and spend a little time on the website. Let me get on off of here, man. Bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Enjoy the fights this weekend. If you do stream or buy, Davis versus Cruz, I'm sure the Mayweather Promotions and Showtime will appreciate your business. Let me get on up out of here.